There's structure to everything we do. Sometimes we wish there was more, sometimes we wish there was less, but we are driven by strategy.
Joining me today remotely from Chicago is Melissa Brower, Creative Director of Marketing at PaperSource, part of the Barnes & Noble family. Let's dive in. Melissa, welcome. Thanks for joining me.
Hi. So happy to be here, Max. This has been looking forward to this for a long time.
Yeah, I have to say, we were at CCS at the same time, and we've stayed connected over the years, but really haven't had a chance to sit down, and I'm genuinely looking forward to this.
Yeah, we
So
were babies the
yeah,
last
we,
time
we
we saw
definitely were
each other.
babies. So I have to ask, who are you and what do you do?
Well, as you already know, my name is Melissa. And right now, actually, for a long time now, I've been a creative director in the marketing industry, specifically retail marketing. So I am a creative person that speaks directly to the customer.
Oh, okay. Yeah.
And I am a creative person that manages a team of people who create under the umbrella that I put up for them. So,
Awesome.
you know, I manage photographers, graphic designers who focus on CRM and retail marketing.
Right.
We create brand design toolkits. So, color palettes, logos for products that we put out, and then the team builds from all of those things. So it's a lot of creative execution from things that I bring to the table in terms of like color palettes and how we take the product and turn it into something really beautiful for the customer. And so they'll come in and buy. That's the goal.
Awesome. Awesome.
Driving business.
Driving business. Absolutely. Absolutely. Melissa, who or what shaped the way you see the world creatively early on?
Gosh, that's a really interesting question. I think I know this might sound really cliche, but my parents.
Oh, yeah.
And I would say that because they were always open culturally and exposed me to so many things as a
Right.
child. And, dragging me around to museums and taking me to interesting places and also being open themselves to travel and all of these things. I feel like I was really enriched visually as a child.
Yeah.
And that with a mix of just who I am, I've always been like very attached to things visually. And my expression, because of that, has always been very visual. And I do believe a lot of that has to do with how I was raised and just being exposed to so many things. Um, and on top of that, being around, I know this again might sound cliche, but in arts in high school, I, really fell into that creative crew. I was always like
Yeah.
the outcast kid
Yeah.
and, had a really, really wonderful art teacher. It was the only class in high school I cared about, and he was really nurturing. And, I was always more about my ideas and my execution, and he nurtured a lot of that and never made me feel kind of weird for the way I saw things.
Right. Right.
Um, and then I ended up at CCS surrounded by tons of creative people who really just drove all of those things even harder,
Right.
you know?
It was almost
Um,
intimidating at that point because you're
Very
you're surrounded by
intimidating.
so many great talent that you're like, "Oh, I'm not
I'll
just the
never
weird
forget
one."
it. It's not, yeah. And just like the amount of talent, it was
Yeah.
really intimidating, but also just I'll never forget, like, 2 in the morning in the art center building, and we're all just up
Right.
doing our homework, and you need a break, and you walk around, and you're just hopping in and out of people's apartments, right?
Yeah.
And everyone's making something. Every single person was making something, and
Yeah.
it's like burning the midnight oil. and it was different. Some people were, literally sculpting in their apartments, drawing, auto design, product design, painting, you name it. I
Right.
felt like I was in some like creative collective, and it really was an inspiring 4 years.
Yeah.
And also a really challenging one in a lot of ways. But I think
Sure.
there was, a combination of all of those things, really.
That's awesome. Yeah.
Yeah.
Melissa, was there a moment when you realized that you were not just drawn to the visuals, but also storytelling and persuasion as it pertains to what you do professionally?
I mean, to this day, there's such a, drive to tell the story and like the commitments that we have to make as creative people to kind of get that story out there. I would say there was a project in the beginning of my career that was and this is a hard discussion in some way because it was a hard project, but I was an art director at SMZ Advertising at the time, and we were doing a pro bono project for the Holocaust Memorial Center,
Oh, wow. Yeah.
which was, it was for like a benefit dinner. And my creative director at the time was Harvey Gabor, who was an art director on that Coca-Cola commercial. I'd like to teach the
Oh,
world to sing.
you're
He
kidding.
hired me. No, I have a lot of stories about that man,
That's
let
amazing.
me tell you. But, again, to go back to that first question, he was definitely a huge influence in my life. And a lot of the little sound bites and things that he told me. I mean, he died a few years back, but that I still hold very close to my heart, that I feel very honored to have worked for that man.
Right.
And he picked me out of the crowd at CCS. But anyway, I digress. We had to do a photo shoot. So it was like back in the old days, we were still doing run of press, newspaper ads, and I
Yeah.
had to do a photo shoot with an actual Holocaust survivor. And we wanted to get a picture of his numbers on, when you went into the concentration camp, you had to get the little
Right.
tattoo. And, again, this was film. The photographer took a shot. We looked at on camera, and it was faded. You couldn't see it. I needed it to be seen. I forgot the concept, but we were recreating an old image that we couldn't get our hands on. And it was two people holding hands, locked hands, and you
Right.
saw their tattoos. I forgot what the headline was. Couldn't see it. And so my boss, Harvey, was like, "You have to draw it back on.
Oh my God.
You have we you have." And this
Oh,
was like a 92-year-old man,
yeah.
Holocaust survivor, you know. And I had to go up to him and be like, "I'm very sorry to ask you this, but we have, got to get this shot. I need to take a Sharpie and draw the numbers back on."
Wow.
And I cried the whole time, and he was very absolutely, because this was
Yeah.
about like an ad to benefit, something good. And
It wasn't glamorizing
I
it.
it wasn't glamorizing it. I
Yeah.
cried the whole time, and I think it just, like, solidified the fact that, like, there are hard choices we have to make. We're driving storytelling. There's a
Yeah.
message that we have to tell, and sometimes you have to do the hard thing to get it there. And whether that hard thing is recreating something that's gonna take you a long time, or is
Yeah.
that might be a hard thing to ask someone to do on
Right.
set, or, say in a script, or even burning the midnight oil because you're just trying to get a
Yeah.
layout right, or trying to get this nuance and typography just perfect. It's commitment
Yeah.
to getting it right. And then the question is, what's right?
Yeah. Yeah.
Who's defining what's right? And that's kind of where I come in my
Yeah.
career, like right now, in my job right now. You know,
Are you
I
chopping onions right now? I've just got to ask.
No, am I crying?
I
You're crying. It was a really that was that's it's an interesting story, because I mean that was rough, but again, I'm sure there are good sides and bad sides to a lot of those
yeah.
things. Of course, we never want to ask people to do things that they're not comfortable with doing, and of course, if that gentleman was like, "Hell no, I'm not doing that," we would have had to figure out
Right.
something else, and we would have had to pivot on the concept, which is still the commitment to the story,
Right.
right?
Right. Yeah. No, it's
So
amazing.
like
And it's
pivoting,
for a positive outcome doing some hard
yeah.
things. Yeah.
Yeah, and
Um,
yeah, one example of many.
yeah, yeah. So I was wondering, uh, this project that you're talking about kind of was a positive outcome, and it everything went right. Is there a project that taught you more, or taught you a lot, even if it didn't succeed?
I mean, I feel like every project teaches,
Yeah.
again, like I mentioned earlier, my number one priority is our customer.
Right.
So it is not about me. It is not about what I like.
Yeah.
It is not about like always what I think is right in terms of my aesthetic, my personal aesthetic.
Right.
So there are a lot of times in what I do that this doesn't feel right,
Yeah.
because I have to like make this headline bigger because we're trying to drive this promotional story.
Right. And
And,
it's not about
I
you.
have to pick,
Yeah.
right. And it's not about me. And I have to pick and choose the battle, right?
Right.
Like in terms of creative, again, the goal is to drive sales. And that's what I'm hired to do. That is what everything I do, that's the number one goal is to sell that thing or to get the customer to engage or to get her into the store. And so sometimes I have to do hard things that, I may not like to do and that may
Right.
visually not be my favorite thing. But if everything I'm doing aligns with the strategy and my business partner and then and the customers,
Yeah.
we've got data, which is one of the great things about what we do here in, direct retail marketing is we get this data,
Yeah.
then we know we're in the right track, even though it might not have been my favorite serif font.
Right. Yeah.
But I picked the right one for the customer. I
Yeah.
picked the right one for this brand.
How do you protect kind of the focus when trends and executive preferences or internal preferences from a team creeps in?
I think the hardest part of my role is to balance all of the voices,
Yeah.
including mine. I have to obviously the customers at the top of the food chain, but
Oh,
then
yeah.
there's also the internal partners, right? So, I lead a team that executes on creative strategy. Well, that creative strategy comes from another team.
Yeah.
Um, I execute on different product buckets. So like custom print is something that we sell. And so there's business owners on that team. My
Right.
team creates the photography for the website. And so we provide a lot of assets for the e-commerce website, but that's another team. And so, and
Yeah.
and then I have my team who also really, has their own strong visual aesthetics and, you know, it translates a strategy in a different way. And it's my job to just pick and choose those battles and kind of like
Of course.
direct the dance in a lot of
Mhm.
ways. So sometimes I'll push back on a partner or I'll push back on my photographer. And, if people bring up things that you'd say, oh, I never really thought of that, or
Right.
that makes sense because, my partner on the custom design print team understands their business model even more than I do. So
Sure.
I'm trying to execute on assets, photography, to show that product in the best light, but they're developing that product for the same person. So it's like when they're developing that product, they've already got a strategy. They already know who she is. They already know. So bringing some of that insight back in. Sometimes I'll push
Yeah.
back and be like, "This color really works for the background.
Yeah.
This prop that our photographer chose really makes sense. Here's why," and we'll have that discussion, you know? But it's honestly, I would say I don't really have a succinct answer for that. It's the hardest part of this role,
Right.
to
Right.
be quite frank,
Are there any tools or tricks you've kind of come up with to help separate the ego from impact? No.
I think just reminding people and reminding myself that, I say a lot, we 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 are stewards of the customer. And so that is our first priority. Um it is what it is.
Right.
You know, a
Yeah.
lot of times creating versions. So, like, if you feel really strongly about something as a graphic designer or a photographer and you are being asked to do something different, show us.
Yeah.
Show
Yeah.
us. Burn that. If you feel passionate about it, do it and show us. And that might mean you have to take that extra shot and you may not have had time in your schedule that you thought to do it. And that might mean that, you have to scramble, just, do the creative scramble. But
Right.
I feel like if you feel really strongly about something as a creative person, it shouldn't be that hard to show that.
Yeah.
If the passion, then we have the discussion, and you still may not always like get that idea through in the exact way you presented it. But at the same time, it's like I feel like part of the creative process in the world of marketing is that give and take, and like feeling really excited about solving the problem. And I feel like a
Yeah.
lot of what we do is creative problem solving. What are we trying to solve for this person? Are we trying to make it easier for them to understand the message we're trying to
Yeah.
to convey? Are we trying to just get them to come into the store? Are we trying to get them to click
To
on this
buy it.
thing?
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah. Are we
What is the point of the conversion in that sense? Yeah.
right? Exactly. So,
Very cool.
there's a lot of nuance and stuff when it comes to that. It's not just about the pretty picture, even though we always want it to be.
Right. Right. You shared how
Mhm.
proud you were of the art direction on Land of Nod, and
Yes.
you described it as a creative neverland. Um,
Yeah,
uh,
it really was.
how do you create space for that kind of thinking in more of a large retail structure, knowing that that brought you so much creative satisfaction?
I mean, I'm just constantly, when we're creating ideas for photography, when we're creating ideas for new, what I call products. So, for instance, under any brand or a lot of brands, they are creating brands within their brands, So I'm trying to think of an example of that, which, like Sephora has their own internal, makeup brand, and then you have to create what that visually looks like for the customer. What's the logo lockup? What's the color palette? How are we going to present visually in front of the customer?
Right.
So it cuts through from the main channel, blah 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 blah. And so a lot of times it's just presenting. We're constantly presenting photography ideas, design ideas, and it's just putting it out there. I don't know, creative is an act of bravery, and so I feel like anything we do, it's like I'm always trying to approach it and push people to be as creative as they can be and
Yeah.
just put it out there. I don't really think that there's a specific tool that we use. I'm always looking to be inspired with what's going on in the outside world. I mean, I'm constantly digging around on creative websites, from Pinterest to whatever.
Yeah.
I go on TikTok and I listen to the young designers and they tell me where to go,
That's true.
honestly.
Yeah. Yeah. I,
And honestly,
yeah.
that's the
Yeah.
best resource right now.
Right.
It's like you want to know where to go for like great typefaces and great photography swipe. Get on TikTok and talk to young graphic or listen to young graphic designers, and they'll tell you. And honestly, that's like a huge source of inspiration right now for me.
It keeps you current and fresh with not just what's going on, but how people are thinking, how they're pushing media, and
Yeah.
keeping you from, oh, well, I know what's good, you know?
Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, Pinterest is not the only place that exists anymore to get
No.
inspired. And, even though it's still very valid in a lot of ways for what we do, there's so much out there. And I think,
Yeah.
if anything, just staying on top of the trends, being, especially in the world of marketing and especially then in the world, again, in the world of retail, I mean, trends and, with storytelling in the world of content, you just you have to know what the you know you know everything we do now. It's like yesterday was National Tile Day. Did you know?
No, I did not know
Like,
that.
Or,
Yeah.
but
Yeah.
like
Yeah.
knowing that, like we might do marketing around that.
Sure.
We might
Yeah.
pivot, it might not again, and that's very brand based because I'm in this world of paper source right now. And we
Sure.
have, we've got a lot of really cute things and lush things and things that our customer would care about a national so and so day,
Right.
maybe not tile day, but a strawberry day.
Right.
And it's
Right.
just, there's just so many things to stay on top of when you're constantly chasing that customer who's also being hit over the head every day
Yeah.
with trends and content.
And your end of the design industry and creative industry in general is very on that leading edge of constantly evolving and what's next and what's now, looking at what's next. It's
Yeah.
even if you're looking back, it's because it's what's next. Yeah.
It's what's old is new again
Right.
sometimes happens. We work with a strategy team who supports that on a lot of ways. So, in terms of like process,
Yeah.
very, there's a structure. Again, I live in the corporate world. There's structure to everything we do.
Yeah.
Sometimes we wish there was more, sometimes we wish there was less. But we are driven by strategy. And so part of the strategy comes from the zeitgeist, what's out there,
Yeah.
what's happening in the world of content, you know, and constantly pivoting into that. And so then, me and my team gets that information and then we're asked to execute on those things,
Yeah.
you know.
Yeah.
Um,
Melissa.
they're always
Yeah.
chasing.
Yeah. Of course. Of course. Melissa, what is inspiring you now outside of design?
I mean, there's so many because I'm such a weirdo. I feel like I'm constant like again, it goes back to my childhood. Like I'm constantly being inspired by things. I mean, the other day it rained dirt here. It rained dirt. Like this
Wow.
the we got rain. It was a warm day and it picked up dirt from the plains
Yeah.
and dumped it on our cars. And I remember getting out to my car and being like, that makes a beautiful pattern. And I
Wow.
wonder, like,
Yeah.
on my car, and I wonder, if there's something that we do with nature. Like, I want to keep that in mind. I mean, that's just honestly how my brain works. I'm sometimes so inspired. It like creates confusion in my life
Sure. Sure. Yeah.
because I want to put things out there and like there's nowhere to put it. I saw
Yeah.
this thing and I'm inspired by it. And like, when can I like unleash it kind of thing?
Do you journal that kind of
Um,
stuff, or do
I
you
d
do
I
you drop
journal
it?
a lot, and I'm not a sketcher, like, that's what's interesting, like, in my creative evolution, and some of this came out of CCS and my experience at CCS, and just I've always been an ideas person, I've never been great at executing, or I should say, like, craftsmanship was always a problem, but that was,
Right.
like, before computers, and then,
Yeah.
I honestly started my career as an art director, and so
Right.
I and it was before the computers even, so I was very doing the key lining things and the roughy, sketchy things. Anyway, long story short, a lot of it is collected in folders. I
Sure.
have folders everywhere. I have accounts on things. I have, paper folders with swipe. I have everywhere. Can I curse? Like,
Yeah.
honestly,
Yeah.
like it's creative chaos, and that's just who I am.
Well, that's how you kind of manage your own creative
Yeah,
collection, if you will.
yes.
Uh,
And a lot of it is in here,
sure. Sure. What does success look for you right now, and how has that evolved over time?
Well, I mean, from a professional standpoint, success looks like great sales,
Yeah.
um, really, happy creative team who feels really good about what they're doing and every day.
Yeah.
It personally, it feels like being able to do something creative every day. I Even though I am very corporate and I manage a team of people and I'm not as hands-on, I still feel like I am a creative person and I do something creative every day because I'm a problem solver And so I'm here to solve creative problems, whether it's tactical ones where I'm like, what color should it be? How can I help you make this better? How can I,
Right.
make this story drive harder? Or it's like, how can I create process that looks different so we can make more room for creative explore? And even though that's not colorful and it's not, typography and layout design or any of those things, to me, it still feels creative because you're problem solving for it and your goal is to make room for it. So I feel to me, the success comes from being creative every day and making people feel good about what they're also creating every day.
Yeah. Yeah. That's awesome. It's a little bit more uh, outward thinking and less about
Yeah.
what is just success for me as a person. Yeah.
I mean, that's like, I think comes from so many years of being about, you know, driving business
Yeah.
and being a brand steward, which is a huge part of what I do, like understanding who we are as a brand and executing on that and driving the look and feel of this brand across every single channel, be it digital, print,
Right.
packaging, design. Um, that's what it's about for me. And like, so feeling successful in those regards feels really good. Um, and it's not about me. I can
Yeah.
be creative and do other, creative things that feel fulfilling to me also. And not to say that, I don't want to drive at what I do day to day at work is it's very creatively fulfilling, but sometimes I just want to make a collage
Sure.
at 10 o'clock at night,
Yeah. Yeah.
and with scraps that I found inspiring, and that helps the ebb and flow of having to answer, to your point earlier, to all of these different voices and
Right.
whatnot.
Excellent. Um,
Yeah.
from your vantage point in retail marketing, where do you see design is most needed over the next decade?
I feel like, you know, continuing to look at how e-commerce I'm very curious about a lot of things, to be honest, in the, digital brand space in terms of like e-commerce and how AI is going to affect e-commerce.
Right.
Building websites and whatnot. Um, how that's going to, because again, like, and I say e-commerce as opposed to brand websites because, we are both. So,
Sure.
a typical retail brand website isn't just about the brand, it's we're there to sell products. So,
Yeah.
and again, like, how does that product even get shot? That's my team does that. So, like, for every, page you're on where you're getting that picture of that product and that price and that copy, that photograph comes out of my team. And I'm just very curious about the evolution of production and then how that will, evolve into design as we're going forward. I'm curious about that and just AI in general. Was that really the question? Like, what was the
Yeah.
question again?
No, I think you got it.
Yeah.
Yeah. Uh,
Yeah, AI in general, and I have a lot of feelings about AI, probably that are different than most people.
sure.
But I think that there is a lot to lean into, and I think just also Gen Z, and
Yeah.
I'm very curious about Gen Z and Gen Alpha. Because again, like, generationally, just the swing you're seeing such a swing kind of back into a lot of, like, analog
Right.
too, and just, what's appropriate in the world and what we can tolerate, and I'm just very curious how advertising and marketing will evolve as those people get older and start spending more money.
Yeah.
It's gonna be
What
interesting.
What do you think they need to understand about balancing the art, creativity, commerce, and leadership as they this generation starts to come into leadership positions?
I think it's just, again, like, there's again, I come from a very old school mentality, you know? If there's sweat equity, you
Right.
know? Don't be afraid to work hard.
Right.
I again, like there's I you know, it's an odd juxtaposition, but if we're talking to like young designers coming into this world of commercial design and marketing, just kind of have to put the ego aside a little bit and understand that there's a different goal, and it's not about the pretty picture. And so not to say you're not wanting to make the pretty picture
Right. Yeah.
and try to drive the pretty picture. But again, you're going to get a lot of feedback, you're going to get a lot of data, and you're going to have to kind of figure out how to create that balance in your life to continue making yourself happy as a creative person while getting that paycheck every day, baby.
Yeah.
Because that's like one of the benefits of the world that I live in,
Yeah. Yeah. Of
as a
course.
creative person, right? So sometimes you have to kind of create some sort of balance in your life and some perspective. And if like, your voice is gonna be more important than the customers, maybe it's something to consider in terms of the choices you make in your career.
Right.
If can make that balance, then you might find yourself very happy. And, I think with any creative person, no matter what you do, yeah, you just, stay on top of who your customer is. Whether you're selling your product at a market, who are, how are you, what's the sign you're putting on your table?
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
How are you showing up? Who are you showing up to?
Uh,
How are you going to get them to come into your tent?
yeah. Yeah. And build a bigger tent that way.
Right. And
Yeah.
build a bigger tent,
Yeah.
you know?
Um, I, I think you're kind of touching on this, but I'd like to maybe tighten in. Is there like a mindset shift that happened later in your career that you wish maybe you had embraced earlier, or you think the upcoming generations would benefit from embracing earlier?
Hmm. I don't know. I'm trying to like, I don't have a lot of woulda, coulda, shouldas
Oh, that's
in
great.
my
Yeah.
life.
Okay. So get the
So
experience and let it roll
I
through.
feel like every choice I've made, you know, good or bad, which is someone else's opinion, because I don't have woulda, coulda, shouldas, has been beneficial. And so I would think, just be open, take the ride, again, figure out who you want to be and then get on the journey and just be open to it, be open to feedback, be open to critique, figure out how to also give it. There's just so many things, but I don't have any. I can't think of one regret, honestly. And I'm sure if you were to ask other people in my life, they might answer that differently,
Yeah.
honestly.
Yeah.
But I have none. I can say, maybe I shouldn't have taken that job. But if I were to look at that job, I learned so many things,
Right.
you know?
You
So it's like
wouldn't
I
be who
try to
you
live in
are
gray
without it.
area.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah. Yeah.
I speak about Harvey Gabor, who was my first creative director, who was such an iconic. I
Yeah.
mean, he was like, he was like one of the original Mad Men,
Right.
it's Madison Avenue guy.
Yeah.
And I took that job, I was making no money. Like you would have, Max, you and I knew each other back then. Like if you would have known what I would have accepted in that role as compared to other people who were graduating along the same time, you would have like shaken me.
Right.
But he taught me so much.
It's
And
invaluable. Yeah.
it was invaluable. And like the just the memories I have even too of like sitting in a conference room with him and creating and selling ideas and getting feedback and it's just invaluable. And so I would say just be open to experiences and live in gray area. Nothing in world is black and white. I truly believe that. And so
Yeah.
like there's always good and there's always hard, and find the balance and know that every experience is going to be beneficial to your journey,
Yeah. That's amazing.
or find
Or find
it.
it. Yeah.
Find the glimmer.
Find it. Yeah. Yeah.
It'll help you live a more peaceful life as a creative person.
Yeah.
You
Melissa,
know?
thank you so much for joining me. I so incredibly appreciate you taking the time to share your perspective, share your time, and especially from the retail marketing side of design, which doesn't get a lot of
Different.
space in this
Yeah.
conversation. And I'm glad we were able to kind of peek into that.
Yeah.
And
It's a very weird corner of the creative marketing world.
yeah,
So, you know, happy to talk about it because I'm a nerd about it. So, and
awesome.
I'm so happy for you, Max. I'm happy to be here. Thanks for asking me.
That was great. I appreciate
Yeah.
you saying yes. So,
Oh, yeah.
and
Yeah.
let's make it not 26 more years. All
Absolutely.
right.
I'm always come to Chicago. You're always welcome. And if I find myself in your neck of the woods, I'll let you know.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Thank you,
But
Melissa.
call me.
All
All
right.
right. I'll talk to you later.
Okay.
Bye.